In this video, I will explain how to create, name, and save Excel files and manage worksheets inside an Excel file. Now, let me begin with creating a new Excel file. An Excel file is called a workbook. You can create a new workbook by clicking on the blank workbook icon. The workbook is defined as a collection of worksheets. You can see 3 worksheets are already there in this blank workbook. After creating a new workbook, we should give it a name. The name should be easy to recognize and retrieve in future. I can't think of any other name. Let me name this file as My Workbook and save it. Now let us move on to the worksheets. The first question is how to rename a worksheet. You can see the default names are Sheet 1, Sheet 2, and Sheet 3 on the Worksheet tab. In order to rename a worksheet, you have to right-click on the Sheet tab and select Rename. I'm going to rename this worksheet as My Worksheet. There is another way to rename a worksheet. You can double-click on the sheet name and then enter the new name. Excel does not allow 2 worksheets to have the same name. Let's try that out. Here I am naming another worksheet as My Worksheet. You can see that Excel is throwing an error message. The second question is how to add new worksheets. You have to click here on the plus icon next to the Worksheet tab. Now you can see here a new worksheet is created. The third question is how to change the sequence of the worksheets. Sometimes we want the most important worksheet to be at the beginning. For this, you click and drag the Worksheet tab to the far left. The last question is how to delete unwanted worksheets. I'm going to select this worksheet, right-click on the sheet name, and click on Delete. As a matter of practice, unwanted worksheets have to be deleted regularly. In this video, I'm going to show you different parts of the Excel user interface. This is the Excel user interface, or the Excel screen. You can see a major part of the Excel screen is occupied by cells and ribbon. The ribbon displays tabs, so these are tabs: Home, Insert, Page Layout, Formula, Data, Review, etc. The Home tab is the default tab. Each tab is subdivided into groups. In the Home tab, the groups are Clipboard, Font, Alignment, Number, etc. Each group has commands. Here, Clipboard has paste and cut commands. This is the title bar. It displays the workbook name. This is the Quick Access toolbar. It has commands which are used frequently, like undo, redo, save, paste special, etc. This is the vertical scroll bar, and this is the horizontal scroll bar. The vertical scroll bar allows you to move the viewing area up or down, whereas with the horizontal scroll bar, the viewing area can be moved left or right. This is how you move to the right and left or up and down in a worksheet. In this video, I'm going to introduce concepts like cell, cell ID, active cell, and active worksheet. A cell is a location where one can enter data and where entered data is displayed. A cell is the intersection of a row and a column. Cell reference is derived by combining column reference and the row reference. Column names are alphabets, whereas row names are numbers. For example, the cell reference E3 has a column reference E and a row reference 3. An active cell is the cell in which the cursor is positioned. You can identify the active cell by its thick borders. Or you can identify it by looking at the cell reference displayed in the left corner just below the ribbon. When you create a new workbook, by default, the active cell is A1. Let me show you this by creating a new workbook. You can see the active cell is A1 in the active worksheet sheet 1. In this video, we will cover useful keyboard shortcuts for navigating in a worksheet. Arrow keys, home key, and end keys on your keyboard are designed for navigation. Arrow keys are useful to move to adjacent cells, but not for distant cells. You have to use a combination of Control key and Arrow key to navigate to distant cells. Let's begin with Control and End key combinations. Assume that the cursor is in cell D3 and that you want to navigate to the end of the dataset. You press Control and End keys simultaneously. You can see the cursor has moved to F14, which is the end of the dataset. The next combination is Control and the Home key. Wherever your cursor is and you want to navigate to the first cell A1 in the worksheet, pressing Control and the Home key simultaneously moves the cursor to cell A1. Now let's consider Control and arrow key combinations. There are 4 arrow keys: up, down, left, and right. If you press Control in combination with any of the arrow keys, the cursor will move in the arrow direction until it encounters a blank cell. For the purpose of the illustration, select A1 and press Control and down simultaneously. The cursor moves downward in column A, but stops at A6. If you press Control and down again, it will move further down and stop at A8. This is because A7 is a blank cell. Repeating the action over and over again, the cursor will move downwards but will stop at A10, then at A12, and then at A13. Once again, it stops when it encounters a blank cell. There's no data beyond A13, and hence if you press Control and down, the cursor will move to the last row of the worksheet. Next is Control and the Up key. Let the cursor be at A18. Press Control and Up key simultaneously. The cursor moves upwards in column A, but stops at A13. Pressing Control and Up over and over again will move the cursor to cell A12 and then eventually to cell A1. Now let's look at the next combination, Control and the Right key. Let's start at cell A2 and press Control Right. The cursor will move rightward in the second row, but stops at F2 because G2 is a blank cell. If we press the combination again, the cursor will go to the last column of the worksheet as there is no data beyond F2. Let's consider the last combination, Control and the Left key. Start at cell L5 and press Control and the Left key. The cursor will move leftward in the fifth row, but stop at F5. Pressing the combination again will move the cursor to A5, which is the last cell. In this video, I'm going to explain how to select a group of cells. In Excel, we call a group of cells as a cell range. Now, let us deal with how to select a cell range. First, let us begin with selecting an entire column or an entire row. One way is to click on the column reference. The other way is to click on any cell in that column and then press Control and the space bar simultaneously. You can see the entire column gets selected. Similarly, we can select an entire row. Click on a cell in the fourth row and press Shift and the space bar simultaneously. You can see that the entire fourth row is selected. Now, let us move on to the second type of selecting range. What if we want to select cells containing data instead of selecting an entire row or a column? Let's assume that we want to select this dataset. I'm going to click on a cell anywhere in the data and press Control and the letter A simultaneously. You can see the dataset is selected. Here's a caution. Don't hold down the Control key and press A twice. It will select the entire worksheet, which is not what we want. Now let us consider a third type of selection where we want to select a few adjacent cells. Assume that the cursor is in cell A2 and we want to select A2, B2, and C2. I'm going to hold Shift and press the right arrow key twice. You can see that the range is A2:C2 is selected. You can repeat this action by pressing any arrow key while holding the Shift key. If you hold down the Shift key and press on the down arrow, adjacent cells in the downward direction get selected. If you hold down the Shift key and press the left arrow key, adjacent cells in the leftward direction get selected. If you hold down the Shift key and press the up arrow key, adjacent cells in the upward direction get selected. Now, let us consider the fourth type of selection, which is selecting non-contiguous cells. For this, you have to use the Control key and a mouse. Here, the cell B6 is non-contiguous to the selected range. And I want to add E4 to the selection. I'm going to hold the Control key and click on E4. You can see that E4 is selected. Similarly, I can add E10 or any other cell. The last selection type requires pressing 3 keys simultaneously. Let the cursor be at cell F11 and let us press Control, Shift, and the Home key simultaneously. You can see that all cells between F11 and A1 are selected. This type of selection is very useful. Let's say if we want to select the column headers in this dataset, we can go to cell A1 and then press Ctrl, Shift, and the right arrow key simultaneously. On the other hand, consider selecting all the values in column C. For this, you have to move the cursor to cell C1 and then press the Ctrl, Shift, and down keys simultaneously. However, when we want to repeat this action from cell B1, only the cells from B1 to B6 are going to be selected. This is because the Ctrl down key stops when it encounters a blank cell. Let me show you. I have to press Ctrl, Shift, and down 4 times to select cells from B1 to B14. In this video, I will explain how to select columns and rows in Excel. First, we will deal with selecting columns that are adjacent to one another. Let us consider selecting columns D, E, and F. Hover the mouse over the header of column D. Wait for the mouse icon to change from the cross to down arrow. Click and drag to select columns D, E, and F. You can now see that all 3 columns are selected. Now let us move on to select columns that are not adjacent to one another. Consider columns D, F, and H. Hover the mouse over the header of column D and wait for the down arrow to appear. Click to select the column D. Press the Ctrl key and click the columns F and H. You can see 3 columns, D, F, and H, are now selected. The Ctrl key plays an important role here. If we click the F column without pressing the Ctrl key, then the F column gets selected and column D gets unselected. Therefore, we need to hold on to the Ctrl key for the previous selection and make a new selection. Now, let us focus on selecting rows. Consider selecting 4 rows, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th ones. Hover the mouse over the header of the 5th row. Wait for the right arrow to appear. Click and drag the mouse to the 8th row. You can now see that the rows 5, 6, 7, and 8 are all now selected. Now consider selecting the 5th, 7th, and 10th rows. Hover the mouse over the header of the 5th row. When the mouse icon turns to the right arrow, click to select the 5th row. Then, press the Ctrl key and click on the 7th row and the 10th row. It is important to press the Ctrl key before clicking the 7th or 10th rows. If you miss, then previous selections get unselected. In this video, I'm going to explain how to delete a row or column using the mouse and a keyboard. For the purpose of illustration, let us consider a sample data set pertaining to orders received by a wholesale distributor. To start with, let me explain how to delete a column. For example, consider deleting the ship date column. First, you left-click on the ship date column reference to select. Then, right-click and select Delete. The ship date column gets deleted. Now, I will show you about deleting multiple but contiguous columns. You click on column reference and drag across to select multiple columns. Then right-click and select Delete. You can see that the selected columns are deleted. Now, let us focus on rows. Let me show you how to delete a single row first. You left-click on the row number to select the row. Then right-click and select Delete. This will delete the selected row. Let us now consider deleting multiple but contiguous rows. You click on the row reference and drag down or up to select multiple rows. Then, right-click and select Delete. You can see that the selected rows are deleted. We have already covered how to delete an entire column or a row. In this video, I'm going to explain how to delete and insert a single cell or a group of cells. Let's start with deleting a cell. Select a cell, right-click, and select Delete. You can see a dialog box pops up with options such as Delete Entire Row, Delete Entire Column, Shift Cells Left, and Shift Cells Up. But we are concerned with deleting cells and not columns or rows. Therefore, let us focus on the 2 options, Shift Cells Left and Shift Cells Up. The Shift Cells Left option will delete the selected cell, and the contents of the cells to the right of the deleted cell will shift towards the left. Let me show you this. I'm going to select this cell, right-click, select Delete, and now select Shift Cells Left. Press OK. You can see that the selected cell is deleted and the cell contents to its right are shifted towards the left. Similarly, the other option, Shift Cells Up, will delete the selected cell and the contents of the cells below the deleted cell will shift up. Let me show you this. I'm going to select the cell, right-click, select Delete, and then select Shift Cells Up, and press OK. You can see that the selected cell is deleted and is replaced with the content of the cell below the previously deleted cell. Now, let us learn the Insert command and focus on inserting a cell or a group of cells. I'm going to select the cell, right-click, and select Insert. You can see a dialog box pops up with the options such as Insert Entire Row, Insert Entire Column, Shift Cells Right, and Shift Cells Down. Let us focus on Shift Cells Right and Shift Cells Down. Select a cell, right-click, and select Insert, and then select Shift Cells Right, and press OK. You can see that a new blank cell is inserted in place of the selected cell, and the contents of the selected cell is shifted to the right. Now, I will select this cell, right-click, and select Insert. Then select Shift Cells Down and press OK. You can see that a new blank cell is inserted in place of the selected cell, and the contents of the selected cell is shifted downwards. In this video, I'm going to explain keyboard shortcuts for editing. Keyboard shortcuts increase the speed at which you can edit a worksheet. We commonly use cut, copy, paste, redo, and undo. Let me show you how you can execute these commands using shortcuts. I'm going to select this range. Let us begin with the shortcut for copy and paste commands. I press Ctrl and C simultaneously. You can see the copied cells are marked. Let me navigate to the cells where I want to paste the copied content. Now I press Ctrl and V simultaneously. You can see that the content is pasted here. Now, let me show the shortcut for cut and paste command. Let me select the cell range, press Ctrl and X simultaneously. Navigate to the cells where the content is to be copied, press Ctrl and V simultaneously. You can see that the source cell content is deleted and is pasted over here. Let me show you how the undo command works. Assume I deleted this column by mistake and want to correct that. Pressing Ctrl and Z simultaneously will undo the deleted column step. It is a very useful feature to correct an inadvertent mistake. Now let me show you how the redo command works. For the purpose of the illustration, let me delete this column and undo the action by pressing Ctrl Z. Now I'm going to press Ctrl Y simultaneously to redo the action, so the column gets deleted again.